This is where the fun begins.
Are you sure? So be it.
And I've always leaned towards if we're going to create something, we should check and see if it existed already to the fans, because it has way more value if we bring that in. And
Right.
it's like, why would I just replace it with something new? So if we're going to do an admiral, if we're going to do a big military leader, yeah, I could create a new guy, sure. But what about Thrawn? Thrawn is great. Thrawn is a character we all know. Thrawn has a lot of credibility. So then you ask yourself, is it right to use him? And can we use him in a way that's similar to the books? Or are we using him and it's going to go completely into left field? And there have been times when we wanted to use things from the EU, and I was like, yeah, but we can't use it that way, so why? I don't want to use it and change it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't want to use it and make it something completely different. That's rude.
Did you miss me?
Hello. Well, did you miss me? I sure missed you guys. It's been a long week from last week to now, but it's been productive. It's been amazing. Yeah, so I'm happy to be here. So good morning and welcome to OG Star Wars channel, to CAF Chat, your Thursday morning dose of George Lucas era of Star Wars, among other things that we will discuss, including State of Star Wars, Cringe Factor, which I think you guys might find very interesting, and of course, any upcoming news. So good morning. I am your host, Alora. So if you're catching the replay, please, please, please hit that like button and leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Even if I just heart and don't reply, I love reading everything, even if you don't agree or whatever. I love reading everything that you post here. And of course, everybody here in the chat, welcome, welcome. Thank you for tuning in and hanging out with me. I do have my mug here. So what's in your mug? This right here, I won in a dance-off special at a powwow. So I won money, a blanket, a flask type fitness flask for my water, and this mug here, and some sage. So money and some gifts for second place. I won in a dance competition outside of the regular competition that was being held. So isn't that cool? Look at this. Pendleton. This is Pendleton. I love it. It's nice and heavy. It's deep, so I can have more coffee. I can fill it to the brim and be ready for you guys and not run out of coffee. I'll probably still run out of coffee. So hello, let me see who's in the chat. My camera looks kind of like greasy or something. Let me go ahead and turn off the cam and check this out. I still have Padme up from when I was on the spacing for the watch party. So if you guys tuned in for that, last Thursday, I was on that. So there was no CAF Chat last Thursday, but there was, I did have a chance to pause, a time to sit and watch. There we go, a little bit better. So it must have happened when I was moving my laptop around with me. So let me see who's in the chat. Let's go ahead and start greeting each other, saying hello. And to all the channel members like Melissa Lord, thank you so much for continuing to support the channel in this way. So, hey girl OG, hey, how are you doing? I'm happy to see you, everybody. I'm happy to see you guys. So I took an executive order here to decide we're going to talk about Dathomirian witches, because if you are at least following Disney Star Wars lore, that what is it called? Tales of the Empire basically brought in the Dathomirian witch clans, which they never even focused on whatsoever until now. So like in the TCW, they didn't really exist. And from what I remember, Dathomir was destroyed by the Empire, by Grievous during that time, but they had no witches. They had nothing. They didn't show him. It was all about the Night Sisters, and that's it. Completely changing the planet and all of that. So we're going to get into the Dathomirian witches. So, and let's see here. Tyranazilla, hello to you. And then Anakin Betsy. So how are you doing, General Kenobi? Cough, cough. Yep. So I can't even do a cough like that. That was just like a big fail. Let's see here. So let's Dawson. Whoop. So here we are, the mod. So you guys behave in there. Behave in the chat. And let's see here. Hey, Laura and chat. Yes, hello and good morning to you. What's in your mug? The Fracture Filter who shared out the stream. Thank you so much. Good morning, Laura and chat. Good morning to you. Let's see here. And Matthew is here. I prefer Voss and Ventress in the EU. I read part of Dark Disciple and I didn't like it. Ooh. Yeah. They pretty much basically, Colleen is cucked out. She doesn't exist for that. And he has this interest in Ventress, which I think is very, very odd. She's not his type. Honestly, she's not his type. I have his image back here. And I do have Ventress up there. Kind of funny that we're talking about that. But in the EU, no, they're not. To me, they're not compatible. To me, we already seen who Voss truly loves, had a kid with, and basically settled and hid to be with his family. And I think that's a story. Like, we don't need to actually happen or know what happens to every single character after Order 66, like Jedis and stuff. So if they weren't killed, they completely disappeared out of sight. No more a Jedi, and all that. So when people say, "Oh well," in the original EU or in Legends EU, they like to say, right? The Legends EU, there were so many Jedi that survived. Well, you have to go in accounts of what they decided to do with their lives. A lot of Jedi, like the Jedi that I didn't say, well, a lot, I would take that back. Jedi who actually survived, like Voss, Quinlan Voss, stopped being a Jedi. They stopped doing Jedi deeds. They stopped putting themselves out in the front, in the lines, fighting, all of that, to stay hidden. They completely just disappeared. And so from that, so that's another way of saying that they're not a Jedi anymore. So there's no more Jedi because they're not doing the Jedi deeds and stuff like that. So if that makes sense, it should make sense. And my internet says it's kind of low here. What the hell? Right, let's see who is else in here. I prefer Alphabet Squadron to Rogue Squadron. Damn, I need coffee. You need a V8 or something to get yourself straight back into the George Lucas era. You need a V8. Get yourself straight. All right. The Fractured Filter. Get that coffee and fast. Yes, I agree with that. Soul Assassin. So listen, because it's like one of those, you need a Snickers, right? And then Star Wars Scran, what's up? Hello there. How are you doing? And then I'm pretty much turning against anything and everything Filoni Star Wars. Wow. Yeah, I think a lot of people are seeing that. And from what I've seen in reviews about the Tales of the Empire, it was not well received. And I'm like, holy shit. So there's that. I can't speak much of it other than I know, like, they brought back the Dathomirian witch clans. And they try to say, well, I'm going to bring this up. We're going to talk about the Dathomirian witches, but I'm going to bring up a few things from Twitter that I noticed. And some of them have nothing to do or related to the lore topic, but it's still related to Star Wars in the sense of using George Lucas's era of Star Wars to bash it to make the Disney stuff look good. So bashing what became before to make the new look better. And Matthew says Disney Star on I hate so much, and I hate that Tim was involved. Oh yeah, Timothy Zahn. Yeah, I'm like Tim. What? Okay, duh, Laura. And then what's up, Matt G? How are you doing? Look at all those coffees. I'm gonna need more coffee. After we're done here, I'm gonna go shopping. I need to get some summer clothes. I need a little bit more summer clothes. I don't hardly have any shorts. Solo Assassin says, somebody missed me? Never knew I was so popular. You are popular. Yes, you are. Yeah, let's see here. Yes, check out my community. I keep forgetting to add, as of lately, because I've been so busy, I keep forgetting to add lore to create conversations. But anybody and everybody that is in that community chat on Twitter, feel free to make conversations. Don't wait for me, especially when I get really busy. So see these paintings back here? It's not, I am going through right now doing my portfolio because I proposed to have my own art show 2025. May 17th, I will know if I was accepted to have my own art show or if I'm going to be having an art show with another person or what have you. So I've been adding pieces to the already proposed art show that I'm going to do. So I've been busy painting. Now it's not going to be about my my Star Wars. I still want to add pieces to those with the characters and their home planets, but that's just something separate in my own. It's my own hobby, my own pleasure and stuff. So I've been really busy, so I haven't been able to post anything in the community. So feel free to post in the community as a community member. Keep it don't do Disney lore. It's not about that. You can discuss about books and comics and characters you like and you don't like. Keep it civil, all that. But it's not about talking about Disney Star Wars. It's pure George Lucas. Not trying to create an echo chamber, just trying to give everybody a chance to just drop in and discuss purely what they love about George Lucas era without someone coming in and ridiculing them. All right, Tyrannosaurus. I felt more sympathy and humanity for Darth Zana compared to Disney villains, and she made someone rip out their eyes. Yeah, we'll get into the humanity of villains and how they're trying to make Disney Star Wars is trying to make villains look like the heroes and heroes look like the villains. That's the take that's been going on. So let's ask them if there is a dance powwow. Does that mean you just got powwowed if you lose the dance off? Well, I didn't even think about that. Powwowed. So depending on like the dance off, like for the special of the individual that's doing it, that could be winner take all. It can be first, second, third. You can have up to 5, 6 where you have, consolation prizes up to 6 places and stuff like that. So it depends, but that's a good point. That's a good point. And yes, get a cool mug from my merch. So you have the choice of Asajj Ventress. I don't think I have a Quinlan Voss one on there. I might still have it. And then you have the Hope one with Luke's silhouette with Tatooine, and it says Hope, which is a original piece of mine. All of that. So get the mug. Get a mug. Yes. Let's see here. And Matthew says, I hate the redone Dathomir lore. I like what was created in Courtship of Princess Leia. Yeah, we're gonna stay in that. We're gonna stay in that realm. Researching and going through and seeing like what I need to add to the conversation today. Wikipedia totally has like changed even the dynamics of the Dathomirians when it comes to Dathomir for the quote unquote legends section of their Star Wars informational pages. So it's not even truthful anymore. It's hard. It's getting harder and harder to locate and research unless you have the books. What the lore was intended to be, even for those type of characters, because of the mess he created. Let's see here. And Star Wars Marvel purist, what's up? How are you doing? Thank you for dropping in. And Matthew says, rest in peace, Dave Overton. Yes. Yes, I agree. And then, there's this whole thing about that me and Tim caught, and through our push, had Disney apologize for some stuff that they did. So yeah, they try to credit Dave Filoni for the Dathomirians. Yeah. On around near the day of Dave Wolverton's death. So imagine that, giving credit to Filoni for the Dathomirian culture, saying that he's the one, and then doing it like on Wolverton's like death day, like when he passed away. That was crazy. Oh, that was crazy. Legendary. All right, so Red Hoodwinked, hello, how are you doing? Disney Star Wars is just cringe to watch. I almost talked myself into watching the new Tale series just to see what they did to Barris. That is another thing that I fucking do not like. Never liked how they changed Barris Offie. She was one of those unique dynamic characters. That was significantly different. And then I think Seagull, whatever her name is, the healer from Luke's New Jedi Order, was mirrored of her, like a mirror of her in a sense, but years or decades later. And Barris is one of those that was genuinely good. And with that came a lot of that responsibility of the healing, which healing comes from, that type of healing in the Force comes from light side abilities and stuff, and compassion and love. And just, excuse me, woo! I don't know where that came from. And just from that, made her such a unique character. Very unique character. Like one of her own, like a standalone character, something that they need to have each character have, like Jedi with their own abilities. Because George Lucas era, every Jedi had their own abilities. Like not most everybody had the telekinesis, but everybody, like every Jedi was very unique with their Force abilities, made them very individual. So not everybody can heal like Barris Offie. Some people can do trance healing like Luke. He wasn't a pure on healer like Barris Offie or Seagull. And I think that's beautiful because even for Luke being the most strongest Jedi of his time, he didn't have all the abilities that we know of. He was capable of a lot, but he didn't have all the abilities, which made him more, I guess you could say, relatable, I guess you could say, when it came looking at the Jedi and their abilities, and that we know that he wasn't overpowered, because overpowered people or characters has everything, right? They can do everything on them that we see within the lore. Luke was not capable of doing everything. Soul Assassin, why would you want to wake up next to Asajj with anger issues than Colleen Hintz, who's fun? You got a point there, Mike. I'm pretty sure a lot of guys would relate to you on that, would relate to you with that. So, and let's see. Tales of the Empire ripped off Crimson Guard training for the Inquisitors. Yes, we talked about that. And I did go back, and because I had to refresh my memory on that. And I believed you, but I just wanted to go back and check it out too. And you are right. So yeah. Timmy. All right. So one thing I want to share before we start getting into the lore is this right here. So let me go ahead and pull that up, but let me go ahead and address this right here. So from Star Wars Marvel Purist. All right. So a part of the EU I never read was the young adult books. Young Jedi Knights, our Jedi Apprentice series. Found a good deal on Young Jedi Knight set, was leaning towards Jaina and Jason binge. Awesome. Yeah, so if you can get like the thriftbooks.com is a great way to buy all those books for cheap and and get them before they all get sold out, because they're not really reprinting them. So get on that link, thriftbooks.com, and look up Jedi Apprentice and Young Jedi Knights and get those books. Get those books on your shelves. I have every Young Jedi Knight book. I don't have every Jedi Apprentice. I have to finish up completing that set. All right, so let me go ahead and pull up something here. I just wanted us to take a look at this. Take a look at this. And critique it. Let me see here. Let me go ahead. All right. We aren't going to watch that video part, but I just wanted to pull this up. Where did I need to be? Oh, I have so many windows up, I'm kind of lost here. So let me clear something here before I move on. I'm still with you guys. There we go. All right. So, perfect. Let's go here. I wish it was a lot easier. So this is my alt account because I am blocked. This was shared with me, but I thought it would be something that we need to discuss here, because this has been the trend. Every time something new comes out from Disney Star Wars, there's always this bashing the original content that George created or his company created under his approval, and all of that. So here we go. So this right here, new Star Wars is so bad. We have to go back to the George Lucas era. And then he goes, the George Lucas era. And this is a dance-off that was being done about 13 years ago. So I think it was about 2010. And it was a like Star Wars kind of celebration at Disneyland. Okay, so there was many performances. I'm pretty sure you might have seen like the Amidala and Leia one, all of that, and the Boba Fett one was the one that's really popular, right? And so he's trying to say that the George Lucas era is, I don't know, this. I don't get what he's trying to say, because this has nothing to do with George Lucas era, like content, other than that these characters are just dancing in celebration of Star Wars. So yeah, so here it is. So he's doing this, trying to say, oh, well, George Lucas era is bad, it's a joke or whatever. And then he goes on here and says, about maybe around the same time frame, maybe like shortly after, this is a joke. Please do not take this seriously. So what do you think? I don't know why I want to have a coughing fit right now. So what do you think about this? And then of course someone chimes in and, did they forget that George Lucas isn't perfect at writing, which has nothing to do with anything. And then here there's a lot of people that countered, like this one, would love to go back to George Lucas's era and enjoy that, back when it felt great to be a Star Wars fan. Using this to attack George is pretty desperate Disney shilling. And so we have people countering here. This is supposed to make Disney Wars look better. Didn't work. And people forget that all the media surrounding the original trilogy was genuine horrendous. So this is another anti-George comment here. Growing up, all the media around like the original trilogy was friggin' badass, from the commercials and stuff at the time frame, because it's significantly, like, the time frame of media back then wasn't as clear and all that as it is now. The technological eras compared from today to back then, completely different. And then he goes on to say holiday special, Ewok movies, droids, and Ewok cartoons. So he's trying to say all of those are bad. Holiday special is cringe. There's some little bits of good gems in there, but obviously it was cringe. Ewok movies, droids, and Ewok cartoons. No, they weren't. They were fun. They were a product of their time and all of that. And then someone says, Dancing Vader was peak. Don't care what anyone says. And so this right here just basically shares like this is his true intent, and then I guess from his backlash he tried to walk it back. And I've been seeing a lot of this people who are, tear down the EU fans or George Lucas or whatever, and then say, oh, it was just a joke or whatever, just because they were getting backlash and all that. So I just wanted to point this shit out, because we need to start doing that to reveal these people's true intentions, even though they may have said, oh, well, it was just a joke. It's not a joke. I'm going to scroll down and see what you guys are saying. So if you guys are having conversation and something I missed pertaining to me, addressing me, I'm sorry. Let me see here. And I have 19 beautiful souls in here. Please hit that like button. I'm going to start from the way button and work up. I never complained about any of that content as a child. Okay, maybe droids. And that everybody has their own opinion about stuff. Yeah, just a joke, bro. Yeah, I get it. Yep. And then the first season of Ewok cartoon is pretty good. The second season is not that interested in. Yeah. And that's the thing. That's with any kind of show. Usually the first season has pretty good stuff. Sometimes the sequels or the second seasons and stuff like that may not be as good unless they have a good writer, or unless the plot carries on and they haven't resolved something. So it's a hit and miss. Ewok movies were dope as a kid. Laugh out loud. I agree. Let's see. I know you guys are all chatting in here. My thing is moving. Epic Games saw that and make Darth Vader dance with Peter Griffin, Goku, and Banana Man. And let's see. So what did I miss? Oh, just Jacob talking shit about George Lucas era of Star Wars. It is the engagement bait. So Elon should get him and stop throttling me. Let's see here. Star Wars was never a joke to me. Let's see here. At OG Star Wars, shouldn't hit that guy with a community note. That would be hilarious. Oh, that would be funny as hell. High ground scene in the theater. I remember being really shocked how graphic it was, but it's a kid movie, right? Right. And then Paul Dini, who co-created the Batman animated series, wrote some of the Ewoks episodes in the first season. Yeah, yes, you are right. We have Luke in here who is a member. That Jacob is an ultimate asshole. Asshole. Remember where that came from? Like Meet the Fuckers, I think it was. Something like that. They don't dance no more. They don't dance no more. I know what you're saying on that. It doesn't matter if you're a Jedi or a Sith. Yeah, so I just thought I'd share this because this is what's going on. And this is like the third or fourth I've seen within a week. And I wasn't hardly on social media this week. And I still seen that. Stuff still came my way. So with that being said, I thought I would share this with you guys and make you guys aware of what's still going on. Like every single time there's something new coming out, they want to bash the old. And the Tales of the Empire was not well received whatsoever. Like I got on and I seen people post about it. I didn't even go and bother to research, but I kept seeing posts about how people were not very well pleased with it for being some like a Filoni production, which is crazy because you have these Filoni shills that will bend over for him and take it, right? And so what's different now? I mean, you would think that they would still bend over for him and take it, right? But they're not. So they're not happy. Theory didn't like Tales of the Empire. Yes, and that's another one too. I've seen that. One of the biggest problems of Star Wars nowadays is that there is too much of it and a lot of it is bad and inconsistent. Yes, and that's with like Bearsoffy. That is like with OG knows Goody Ma. That is like a lot of it. Like people were questioning Tales of the Jedi, and one thing I hope, and I love you, Raging Rhino, cool guy. I don't think he knows the Dathomirian lore outside of TCW. And so I think it was a shock to him to see these clans introduced. You know, like I was watching his review and he's like, oh, all of a sudden they're allowing other people to live on Dathomir. No, well, and not realizing that they decided to walk back and introduce the witch clan. And so they introduced the mountain clan. And then so we had, let me see if I could pull this up here before we go on. Because this will segue into talking to about our lore regarding the Dathomirian witches. So this is perfect. Perfect. I wish I just had everything just ready to go, but that's okay. This is perfect. So let me go ahead and pull this up and this will help us segue into it. But he didn't realize that there were witches, the witch clans. I don't think he read the Courtship of Princess Leia. So, you know, I will give him a pass on that. But, you know, and for someone who doesn't read the books or hasn't read all of them and isn't privy to the full extent of the lore, then I understand where he's coming from in a sense. And so just give him that. So let's see here. Here we go. Okay, so let me show this. Now, like I said, I wish I should have had this all ready to go right away, but that's okay. That's okay. And speaking of Raging Rhino, Casual Rage is tonight. Or I didn't check the time though, so don't. And I know he is playing with having it different times. You know, exploring the possibilities of changing the time frame. So here is this. Let me just blow this shit up. This is from Star Wars Holocron. You would think someone who has that name would know their fucking lore, right? So Morgan Elsbeth, whatever her name is taken in by the Mountain Clan. The Mountain Clan first appeared in the Legends book, so the original EU book, Courtship of Princess Leia, but Tales of the Empire is the first canon appearance. No, the first canon appearance is in the Courtship of Princess Leia. More Tales of the Empire, Easter eggs, blah, 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 blah. We're not going to get into that. I want to get into my tweet now. I quote retweeted because this person who says they're a holocron, so they should have accurate knowledge of this. No, it was the Singing Mountain Clan, not the Mountain Clan. So there was no Mountain Clan in the Courtship of Princess Leia. There was the Singing Mountain Clan. So they absolutely got that wrong. So it's not that they're bringing these clans back in from the EU. They are copying what the EU under Dave Wilburton created, and they changed the name of the clan, possibly from Singing Mountain Clan to Mountain Clan. That's the only thing. So here are the actual clans. Singing Mountain Clan, the Frenzied River Clan, Misty Falls, Red Hills, Dreaming River, Great Canyon, Raining Leaves, Broken Columns, Bright Sun, Red Mud Potters, Blue Coral Divers, Scissor Fist Clan, which I'm not going to even elaborate on that, Howling Craig Clan, Night Sisters and Night Brothers, and the Spider Clan. So the Night Sister clans have the Night Brothers and the Spider clans. The Night Sisters are basically when you are exiled from a clan using the dark power or the dark side, basically, you are considered a Night Sister. So these these clans predominantly use light, I guess you can say. There are some darkness into it, and we'll get into the lore and why there is, but they are the way they are. But once you're exiled and you're thrown out and stuff like that, and you commit crimes against a clan, you are now considered a Night Sister. So that's the difference here. Filoni did not follow that formula and gave in TCW what the Night Sisters are, changing the whole premise of the Dathomirian witches and even the world. So there's that. There is that. Let me see what you guys have to say. Kai, hello. He most likely gets all his knowledge from Wikipedia. Probably. I know you're talking about Jake. And Holocron possibly, or the Holocron. Yeah, that too. Holocron possibly knows. Disney just tells him what to do and dangles that Disney exclusive pass in front of them. Yeah, and if you hear the rattling on the side, my cat is getting in my cart where I hold my paintbrushes and stuff. And because the sun is on it and he's trying to get comfortable, Darth Toby is raising hell. Hopefully he doesn't fall over it and break anything. Okay. Let's see here. Coronado. Hello. I wish they canonized the scissor fist clan. Oh my god. I'm like, I don't want to even get into that, but yeah. Star Wars, Marvel pre-appearance. Follows up. Disney definitely went with scissor fisters. Oh my god. Good morning, Silver Orc. I know it's scissor fisters. Oh my god. Yup. Toby, he's now next to me. He's like sniffing my coffee. You can't have any of my coffee. Oh, Disney brought Star Wars or bought Star Wars. I know, but canceling the EU just to scavenge what you want from it—that's cheating. Yes, I agree. Matthew, he destroyed canon. Filoni did, and I have no idea why George Lucas allowed it. I honestly don't get the hatred Clone Wars had for the EU. If you really look into the development of it, when George started stepping away, and during this time, he wasn't only just like slowly stepping away from TCW. So when I do share, oh well, George stepped away from TCW to work on his project. He basically did that with the company in a sense of like micromanaging everything that was being produced during that time. Because if you look at the EU books and stuff like that, when you get into the older books during that time period, there wasn't that much George involvement as there was like prior. So you see that too. So like with like Legacy of the Force, or Legacy era, you hardly hear of any of George's involvement, but pre that you do get a lot of George's involvement, and that coincides with the TCW when he stepped away. So my point is like when he stepped away, he stopped really monitoring, like and who knows what was going on with the people in charge underneath him on keeping track. I know that Leland Chi was trying to really retcon what TCW was doing at the time, and putting out statements of this is how this happened, but really it didn't really happen that way, and we're gonna like statements of correcting are any of that. So if you look into the history of all of that during that time, you have all of that confusion going on, even with Leland Chi saying this is how it happened, but it really didn't happen here. This is how he talked, just how he talked. Star Wars Marvel Peters says they yep. And there's that. We're not going to get into that, but I am going to get into a little bit. Pronouns are a way of describing a person or people in a situation, right? And when you get into the word they, you're talking about multiple people. So when you know grammar, and when you listen to like English being spoken, because that's the predominant language, and someone says they, what do you think what do you think they're saying? Well, they're addressing a group of people in a situation. In a situation. But when you get into when they address a single person, it gets confusing, because you're like, okay, so does this person have multiple personalities? What's going on here? Now I get, and I pointed this out so many times. So this is where you guys got to be careful with this, with Star Wars characters and aliens, and how these aliens perceive themselves. I'm not saying George was doing this pronoun, gender, sexual classification, identification shit back then. He wasn't. But there are characters that spoke in the third person or spoke in hive mind, where they would speak grammatically correct for their situation, right? Like or what's his name, Oric, or forget his name. So he's I'm not saying it right, but Oral, I think his name's Oral or something like that. And he is from the X-Wing series. He's one of the X-Wing pilots, and he speaks in third person. But the reason why he speaks in third person, so when he talks about himself, of course, how he talks about it, like himself, is not similar to how we talk. And the reason why he talks about himself the way like we and not I and stuff like that is because he hasn't earned the honor to talk about himself exclusively. In their culture, I think he's a Gand, but in their culture, they have to do an honorable deed to become their own person, I guess you can say. And then, of course, you have the Keelik hive minds and other different hives out there that they speak in we because they are all interconnected mind-wise as a collective. So you have those instances of, but it goes with the species. But we are told why when we first hear them or read them speaking, right? So we can understand this is the approach and this is why they do this, and it's very organic. So I remember when they were asking Oral why he was speaking, or when someone was questioning it, and he's like, "Oh well, I have to. This is why," and he tells them of his people and why he speaks how he does and how he has to earn the honor to be an individual, I guess you could say. So that's very interesting. So be careful with that, because that can be thrown back at you in a sense if the person who is countering you knows their EU lore. So just a little FYI. Just a little FYI. Y'all need mental help. Let's see. Let's see here. And Star Wars Marvel Players says a lot of videos of Filoni talking about sneaking shit in when not to show George certain things that add during post, etc. Yes, there's that. And someone tried to defend, oh well, he was gonna do that, but he ended up showing and George approved it. Someone was trying to defend that on Twitter last night, and that's not the case. Let's see here. And this really skipped up. Where are you guys at? Somehow the micro series fits the EU mostly. Correct. And it's done beautifully. You know what I was going to say? Okay, so the Tales of the Jedi, and we're going to start talking about Dathomir here pretty quick. Tales of the Jedi, and those tales are, they seem like they're trying to mirror what Tartakovsky did with Clone Wars 03. You know how there was very short micro series. They were supposed to be like a little bit of engagement type, advertisement type of show, where you got a little bit of it, but it kept you interested. And then George realized how well it was being received. And so those started getting a little longer, and the story started getting more fleshed out. So that's the history of the Tartakovsky Clone Wars 03. So I think that they, in Disney, Lucasfilm, are trying to copy that format that that TC03 basically was did with their micro series, and how well it was received. And I think they are falling flat on their face with that. So that's my observation with that, because they're only 15 minutes long, right? They're short. They're probably a little longer maybe than some of the micro series, bits, or pieces, or bits and pieces of our little shows. But I think that they were trying to capture the magic that Tartakovsky did with these micro series, and are falling flat on their face. That's how I see that. Rey's home in Jakku has elements of the Jedi Prince. I have to reread that now, because I haven't read the Jedi Prince in a long time. Okay, so now you've sparked my curiosity to compare and contrast. And how are you doing, Maz? Masquerade. Okay, I get it. I'm like, oh, I cannot say that word. Lucasfilm might as well turn the hetero into pure villains. let's see here. So let's get into the Dathomirian lore here. Let me see if I could pull up a picture of the founder, and then we can get into it because that would be fun here. So those are the clans, including the Scissor Fists. Those are the clans. But let me go ahead and see if I can pull up an image of her. Let me see if they have an image of her. Because if they don't, then there's no reason to do that. I think they do. Okay. I think there is. Let me see here. Let's see here. I want to have a nice image of her. And these are like some of the subgroups of or let me see here. Before I find a good picture of her. So some of the Dathomirian witches or affiliate organizations is the Hay Consortium, Black Sun, Zon Consortium, Confederacy of the Independent Systems, New Republic, and Galactic Federation of Free Alliance. So those are some right there. So basically, Ayla is the one who founded the Dathomirian witches. And let me bring my picture back up here. And she's the one that's responsible. If you hear that galloping in the back, my cat's running around like he's got the zooms. Toby is just running around. So let's see here. Yeah, so the Dathomirian witches, they basically are a group of women, predominant women. This is where you get like, okay, so, this is where like how everybody complains about like, oh, women has to be front and center, women are leading, women are the focus, we have all that. Well, this was done long before all this woke culture came about, I guess you could say, if you want to map it that way. So the Dathomirian witches basically was founded by Ayla or Alaya. There we go. I think I'm going to say Alaya. So they were founded by Alaya. She was a Jedi. She was a Jedi that this was about around 600 BBY. And she was exiled during the Great Peace of the Republic. And she was exiled because the council seen her as a dark Jedi. She wanted, similar kind of to Exar Kun, she was very interested in the holocrons and wanting to learn more about the dark side. So very similar to that. So they exiled her, and she found her way on to Dathomir. And from there, and of course, she was seduced by the dark side, basically, because she was very interested in all this other stuff. And so she ended up on Dathomir. And from there, she realized that, the society was force sensitive. So from there, she was teaching them how to use the force. She was training them. She separated the men from the women. This is where the separation comes, where they become this huge, like, maternal matriarch kind of society, and the men are just there for pleasure and work, right? So if you haven't read Courtship of Princess Leia, I'm kind of giving some stuff away, and I highly recommend it. That's not the book of the week, by the way, but I am still recommending it. And so she created this system where it's predominantly women that's in charge. Men are just there to help and have sex with, basically. So they're just there to do the heavy lifting, and that's it, and have sex and reproduce, right? And it's very interesting to see how they like treat Luke Skywalker in the Courtship of Princess Leia. So again, I highly recommend that. So she taught them using the Force, and she created the book. Let me see. Like, I have to find the name of the book. But everything you know about the Dathomirian culture, they are using the Force. Something that maybe Filoni was trying to say, oh no, it's just this different type of magic. No, they are using the Force. They are using the Force, and she taught them how to, train rain cores so that they can use them. So dominate and train the rain cores and use them to their advantage. I'm looking for the name of the book, but there's a book that was named. Let me see if you guys, someone picked it up and is telling me in the chat. Sounds like a rough life. Yes. Let me see here. And let me see here. The Book of Law. There you go. Thank you, Soul Assassin. I was waiting for you to come up with that. So the Book of Law. So she wrote the Book of Law. Everything was Force related from everything she learned and was trained in the Jedi Order. Just renaming things and then also using chants to invoke the Force, I guess you can say. So that's the only difference. But they are using the Force. The human hyenas want males to be villains by nature. We'll get into that here pretty soon. Sounds like rough life. Yeah. Let's see here. And what else are you going to say here? The woke wants hyena society into human society. Let's see here. And then Ma says, Cal Kistis and Marin is the only couple that didn't have a role reversal that is saying a lot. Yeah, well, that's a game. So you could say, oh, well, that's not really truly canon, but I don't know exactly what canon is in Disney Star Wars or not. I know the canon system, I guess you could say, in pre-Disney. Let's see here. Praise Ara. How about that? Strong women who are actually strong. Take note, Disney, the EU did it before and better than you. Exactly. So my point is, like with this, with the Dathomirian witches, the women dominated, basically. So there's women domination on Dathomir, similar to the Hapes Consortium. So and there's a very big tie between the two. Going back to courtship of Princess Leia, like years and years, decades and decades later, from Ayla creating the Dathomirian witches and their clans. Basically, she is the founder of all that. We have Teniel Joe, who basically becomes the queen mother of Hapes. Isolder takes her as his wife. I'm not going to try. If you haven't read, I'm not going to try to spoil everything. And she becomes the ruler of Hapes. Well, Hapes is another female dominant culture, I guess you could say, in Star Wars. And so she fits right in the sense, but Hapes is civilized, I guess you can say, with all this modern advancement of keeping beauty and grace and all of that, and almost like a narcissist kind of society because they have to keep their beauty and stuff like that. And then you have the Dathomirian culture where it is very earth-based, I guess you can say, if you want to call it that. And their culture has no technological resource advancements and stuff. So you have them complete opposites. So when Isolder brought in Teniel as his bride, as his wife, of course, his mom did not appreciate it whatsoever. And this goes into Tenel Ka. And because that's their child, right? And so she's the heir. She became the queen mother years later. And but her grandma has always been trying to kill her mom and succeeded, and then tried to kill her, and then went after Tenel Ka and Jason's daughter, Alana. Aaliyah, kind of similar names, right? So there's that history there between the two planets and the two cultures that are very similar, except for in technological advancement. So there you go. So there's that. So very interesting indeed in that. Let's see here. What'd you have to say? OG Star Wars sent you a picture of Ayla. Thank you so much. I'm going to go pull it up. Let me get out of this here. I know I kind of gave up, so thank you so much. Okay. Yeah, that's the one I was trying to get, so we'll put her on screen as we talk, and then we'll get into Cringe Factor. So Cringe Factor is something that I think you guys are going to find quite interesting. Let's see here. And the Dathos are less unique when everybody has a hyena society. Yeah, that's that. So when you like, if you had a chance to, and curiosity got the best of you, and you watched Tales of the Empire, I was gonna say Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the Empire, they did bring back these clans, and so I think it's very important to talk about them now, because what um what is given then versus now are completely different, and rightfully so, so one quote I like to share with you guys here. So Luke Skywalker is talking to Prince Isolde. I don't know why my voice is going through shit right now. I have no idea. So let me go ahead and just get this cough out. I'm going to mute real quick. All right. So, because like I said, this goes in, like, the introduction of the Dathomirian culture and stuff was in the Courtship of Princess Leia. So he says, it's often easier to see the barbarism in alien cultures than it is to see in your own. The witches have built a hierarchy based on power, as do most cultures. So he's telling this to Prince Isolde, and he's basically comparing Prince Isolde is probably looking down at this culture, like what I was saying and talking about, because they are not as advanced. They are very, I guess you could say, what is called earth based. Like there's no technological advancements. They live off the land, and so people can see that as heathen, barbarian, and what have you. So I thought that was very interesting to see this quote as I'm looking through and researching what I need to share, and and stuff. So let's see here. So over the time they divided into distinct clans, and the Singing Mountain clan is the main clan, and then and then 8 ABY. So ABY is after the Battle of Yavin. There were so many. There were more than a dozen clans, and by 12 ABY, the numbers had been reduced to 9. And this is perhaps the most prominent these groups was the Singing Mountain clan. And after Luke's exposure, of a man having these powers, this magic, they called it magic, but it's basically the Force, right? It's kind of like he would be the prime person to probably mate with, I guess you can say, but and stuff like that. But because of his exposure to the culture as a strong force using male, it basically helped the men of the Dathomirian planet and this culture, I guess you can say, basically find their own power, I guess you can say. So it's a revolution for the male to step up and into, I guess you could say, their own power. And so when you get to see, I think it is Fate of the Jedi, when you get decades later into Fate of the Jedi, the men started forming their own clans, and the culture started evolving a little bit more. But there are some clans that did not like that and hated Luke for what he did, how he empowered the men on Dathomir. So I think it's very interesting, and nothing with this Zabrak human hybrid culture thing that Filoni created, none of it had that. Even Fate of the Jedi. So they were kind of retconning what had happened and keeping true to what Wolverton created. So I thought that was very interesting there in itself. So let me see what you guys have to say. We got to get into Cringe Factor here pretty soon. Let me see what you guys are saying. A planet full of freaky females sounds like a road trip in the works. First we hit Zeltros, then Dathomir. Or do you want to go Dathomir first and then go to Zeltros and kind of unwind and party down? So maybe you might want to rethink that, right? I mean, but if you like to be like subdued and controlled, I mean, if that's your thing, by all means, go there first. Go there first. Have your fun. But will you be able to leave? Because you turn into their prisoner, basically. You turn into their prisoner. Yeah. So what do you guys think about this? What do you guys think about the Dathomirian witches? Like I said, like the Night Sisters are formed due to the fact that they are exiled for their for committing crimes against their clans and stuff like that, and using that dark magic or dark side of the force. Now I have you thinking, right? Sounds like a one-way trip to me. Right? Original lore for Zabrak is better, correct? And we might have to follow up with Zabrak cultural lore. I keep on saying culture lore because it's very different than what TCW did to it. Very different. How are you doing, Keely? Nice that you came in and hang out with us. We have 24 beautiful souls. You guys hit that like button, share that we're live. Thank you so much. Sounds more interesting than Filoni's butchering, correct? We are talking about the Dathomirian culture sans TCW, so without TCW's influence here. Just because they were now the clans of the Dathomirian witches were introduced in the Tales of the Empire. So we're talking about the true culture, the true lore of this society on Dathomir. And then if only we get Glenn Murakami and his crew to do animated to stay true to its source material instead of Dave Filoni being supervising director. Who knows? I think he would still have to apply with what Disney wanted and what Filoni wants, because Filoni is the creative chief of creative operations there, right? And let's see here. I dub them Night Sisters of Dathomir, and they are interesting. Yeah. So there you go. So what do you think about this? What do you think about the Night Sisters? So let's get into that before we fully get into our cringe factor. So let me see here. So Ayla, she is the mother, the basically the person to have brought this culture in, and very well deserving as well. I mean, she designed a culture to fit what she wanted, really. That's crazy. And let's see here. And their training of like Rancors was pretty interesting as well. And I'm not going to get fully into that. So again, I did tell you guys the clans. So those who are jumping on that don't know the clans, and one's going to be quite funny for you guys, is we have the Singing Mountain clan, which is the main one, the Frenzied River clan, Misty Falls, Red Hills, Dreaming River, Great Canyon, Raining Leaves, Broken Columns, Bright Sun, Red Mud Potters, Blue Coral Divers, Scissor Fists, Howling Cray clan, and then the dark magic or the dark side are the Night Sisters, who consist of the Night Brothers and the Spider clans. So I think the Night Brothers and the Spider clan, I think the Night Brothers is a TCW thing. I don't remember if the Spider clans is. So that one right there, I don't know. So very, very interesting here with the clans and the culture of the Dathomirian witches, and how a Jedi did influence it around 600 BBY. So very interesting there. So that was still in the time frame of where I think they think the Sith is extinct, if I remember correctly. So the Sith is not... Scissor fisters are meme material. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. I can't believe that. Like when I was researching the clans, I didn't even like Scissor Fist never even dawned on me. Like even reading through the culture and even reading through Courtship of Princess Leia. So that was quite funny when I first seen that. Wasn't one of Luke's students from Dathomir and ended up started training site on the planet? Yes, and I was going to get into that before we closed out. So, when Luke basically took students in, or at least one or two, and I forget how many, so we'll just say one or two, just to play it safe. And he created a training facility, like a Jedi training facility on Dathomir. And I think Yeah, and I fully think that something happened to it, so it kind of like faded, and then he brought it back, or his son Ben Skywalker brought it back in Fate of the Jedi. So that's that. Kiratai, yes. Scissor Fisters in my thumbnails tonight. Oh my god! And then yeah, was one of the original groups. Correct. Yes. I was like, yes, there you go. Thank you. I knew I could count on the chat to bring that up. Thank you guys. But yeah, so Luke left a training, a praxium, I guess you could say there. It empowered the men as well. It advanced, evolved the culture, which some people, there's always going to be some people who don't want the culture to advance and they want to keep everything as is. And so there was that push and pull going on, and we do see it being spoken about in Fate of the Jedi. So very, very interesting. Very interesting indeed. So that's a bit of history with the Dathomirian culture, the Dathomirian witches, with the clan system, who brought it about, all of that. Very, very interesting. And Coronado says, imagine Scissor Fisting meeting with Kit Fisto. Oh God, you guys, I can't with that. I can't. So the EU writers were probably thinking rock, paper, scissors. This is before the age of 58 gender. I don't know. Oh my God, I have. I'm gonna pull up. I'm gonna see if I can pull up information about that clan. Let's see here. I am very curious now. Curiosity killed the cat, right? And we're going in. We're going in. So the Scissor Fist clan. Okay, so they were made up of former escaped slaves of the planet Dathomir. It was named after the Scissor Fist, a large crustacean found on the planet. Okay, so I didn't know, like I said, I didn't know that was the name of a species or a crustacean. The Scissor Fist feuded with the Blue Coral Diver clans. Well, that makes sense. They're both seafaring, I guess you could say, another clan that lived near the sea. After years of fighting, both clans tried to settle their differences through a diplomatic meeting. However, the peace talks ended badly and both clans resumed their feud. Yeah, so this is all in the Fate of the Jedi book. So Backlash, both Backlash and on the audio. So there we go. Yeah, and I think I don't know why that did not. I haven't read Fate of the Jedi in a while, and that did not stay in my head. That did not stay in my head. But there you go. There's a little bit of history that came from later. When, sure, like I said, the time frame where George stepped away to do his own projects. Fate of the Jedi was one of them that didn't have much of George's feedback. So, or any at all. While listening to Jizz, Razor Fist. I man, my voice today, it's like my voice wants to go out. I don't know why. I woke up feeling great. I don't know what's going on. I am reminded that Therm Scissor Punch is a real Disney character. That too. Oh my God. I wonder if they got inspiration from that. Imagine that Quinlan Voss meets with Han Solo and Leo Grande with the betrothed Colleen Hintz. Yeah, that would be interesting. That would be interesting. The namesake gave me the crabs. Oh my God. So yeah, so Scissor Fist, basically, that came out of Fate of the Jedi. Ugh. So with that being said, again, what do you call it? Courtship of Princess Leia is not the book of the week, but we are going to get into the book of week. Now, I do have a picture of it, so I'm going to share with you, and we're going to get into that. So let me pull that up, and then we'll get into our cringe factor. Dun, dun, dun. So cringe factor. So let me see if I could pull this up. And here we go. Let me get out of this one here. Try not to have too many thumbnails up. Let's see what you have to say. I like to think Quinlan and Colleen Kidd eventually joined Luke's academy. That would be amazing if like he recruited him, but didn't realize the connection until after, speaking with his kid and stuff like that. That would have been amazing. That would be like the authors are so good tying in. I think that was a huge miss. With them. And then, but it also depends on like, the time frame of when everything came out. And here we go right here. So if you want to listen to this Courtship of Princess Leia opening crawl is available. I think that's for the animated fan project, I believe. Am I right, Soul Assassin? All right, so let's get into our book of the week.
I hate to say it, but it looks like the item you're searching for doesn't exist.
Impossible. Perhaps the archives are incomplete.
If an item does not appear in our records, it does not exist.
So here you go. I love this. I was compared to her, saying how I always want to be right. Like, this is what Disney shills tell me, but basically I always want to be right. I'm always snarky. I don't know. So people try to compare me to her, to the historian, librarian, or whatever. Well, anyways, so here you go. The book of the week is basically a trilogy. And so we're going to get into the dark forces. And the reason why this is, it inspired me because of going on and back and forth about how Rogue One basically is a knockoff of Dark Forces. And you can say there's a bit of elements from Han Solo trilogy, with the plans being transmitted and picked up from Tapara, or whatever. I probably said the name kind of off or wrong, and I apologize. But when you look into all this history of like dark forces, every single image and description of how the plans were taken, where they were taken, how they were beamed up, like the scenes from Scarif and the base on Scarif is very similar to that of what is shown in Dark Forces and stuff, and in the games and stuff, and even like I said, and bits and pieces with the Han Solo trilogy, but mainly it's a knockoff with character design and elements, and like even like Jakku would be similar to what you would say would be the Valley of the Jedi in a sense, even though what occurred there was slightly different. So there's those elements. There's a lot of elements that were same, that were switched up to make it look not as like not directly similar to Dark Forces. So with this conversation, I was like, you know what? I'm going to recommend Dark Forces for the EU book of the week. So this is the EU trilogy of the week. And they are hard to find right now. And I think the Jedi are the Rebel. No. The Jedi Knight, I have them laid in wrong order here, but you get it. I just laid them out. So you have the soldier for the Empire. You have the Rebel Agent, that's book 2, and then you have the Jedi Knight. And the Jedi Knight one, if you're looking for this, to add this trilogy to your library, I think the Jedi Knight one is going for a lot of money. But I highly recommend looking for them. You might be able to find them on thriftbooks.com and add them to your collection. Like I said, there's always one book in a series that you're trying to collect for your library that may cost a lot. And that even goes with like the comics for like Heir to the Empire and all that. You're going to run into some of the books that are a lot more than the other in the comics as well. So I decided to share this, like I said, because people are trying to say, oh no, Rogue One is not even a copy. So I don't know what you guys are talking about. You guys say that it's a copy, but it's not a copy. No, every single element, like down to the characters, are copies of the original characters to the Dark Forces. And so if you want the true Rogue One, this is what I recommend. And this also goes into another part of the history. Like, it doesn't just focus strictly on the getting the plans, right? There's other things that are happening here as well. So the story has an evolution, and so it's not just one single focus-based plot. And then, of course, the Han Solo trilogy, which is not the book of the trilogy of the week, but I'm just pointing out that there are elements of the Skyhook plan that there's two parts planned to the Skyhook plan. So, like, the stealing of the plans that involves like bits and pieces and elements of the Han Solo trilogy that we see it in, and then versus this, and I think Force Unleashed. This right here with Kyle Katarn is the second phase of the plan, of the Skyhook plan. The first phase is what we see with, you know, Force Unleashed and with the Han Solo trilogy. So there's two separate, there's two different, there's two, you know, sources of the plan. There's two, you know, elements of the plan. And so highly recommend this, highly recommend looking into the Skyhook operative as well. That's very interesting. It's not a book or anything, but just like if you want to do your research on that lore, the Skyhook operative, basically there's two levels of that operative. And Dark Forces, what we see in Dark Forces is just the second half of it. So I highly recommend it and put it on your shelves. I'm going to recommend this. So Kenobi Stieg basically has the radio drama on his on his YouTube, but you can find the radio dramas on YouTube of the series here as well. So if you can't find the books, you can listen to the radio drama, and I highly recommend that as well. And the games, of course, but the games basically is the secondary. That's for the fun of it. You still get the plot story there of the stealing the plans, but this has a lot more to the story here in these books. And the novels are usually the true canon of the story, and games are just the fun addition to the story. So I highly recommend. Let me see what you guys are saying. Rogue One equal with the GCI Deadman and Darth Memberberry cameos. Yeah. There you go. So I highly recommend these books here. So highly recommend, hands down. So let's see here. Let's get into our cringe factor so we can start wrapping up. And I'm trying to figure out which one I want to do first. There's ended up being two. I think I'm going to do the one that's going to be short and sweet first, because then we can segue into that. Let me go ahead and take this down. So there you go. So EU book of the week is Dark Force Trilogy. And an added bonus, if you have the game, play it. But the novellas basically are what tells you the story here. And I'm going to go ahead and turn my screen on. And so, yeah, so I have the books in front of me. They're not really graphic novels. I mean, like per se, like graphic novels, but they are images in here in a sense. They're little novellas. So I highly recommend. What happens to Morgan Katarn? Oh my God, that's tragic. Holy heck. Let's see here. And like this right here, I wish we got more of Jan and his story after New Jedi Order, but we didn't. So let me see here. I'm going to turn my camera back off. All right. So let's get into our cringe factor. Dun, dun, dun. So let's go ahead and grab, if you need to grab your beverage or refresh your beverage, feel free to do that. And we're going to get into our cringe factor.
I have fought the worst of all wars and witnessed the redemption of evil. I have seen balance restored to the Force. But order can turn to chaos, as it did when I was born. Now, with my loved ones and my loyal allies, I face a new challenge unlike any before. And I'm not sure this time we can win.
Star Wars Vector Prime by R.A. Salvatore, the first novel of the New Jedi Order.
And as we get into it, I can't find... Okay, I'm doing a Tim.
So uncivilized.
All right, so here we go. Here's the cringe factor, and I wish I would have had kept my screen down the way I like it there. There we go. In fact, let's bring the whole thing up here. There we go. That's better. So this is what this is one cringe factor I wanted to get into. It's kind of a short and sweet one, but I wanted to get into it because they are saying that Star Wars fans spot a massive clue to its acolyte's new Sith Lord. And you think they are saying it is. Well, let's go here because this is what keeps it short and sweet. So is this cringe factor? Probably. Is this going to make you think and be like, oh, hell, fucking no? Probably so. So that's part of the factor of cringe factor here. So basically, this is what they're saying. It's Tenebrous. Why? Because of this ship that was spotted here. So this is what was posted on Twitter. Looks like it. Tenebrous is a small but priceless starship. The Rugged gnome design, alloy wings, and snub nose poking from the artless mausoleum the explosion had fashioned, and finally, not meters away, lay Tenebrous, similarly entered. So Darth Plagueis. So basically, they're saying because of this ship and the description in the ship here, that Tenebrous is going to be the Sith of the show. What do you guys think? What do you guys think with that? Damn it. I have to see. Whoops, I'm not even in the chat. There we go. I have to see you guys. Imagine if Jar Jar is over 200 years old. Just a thought. Let's see here. I saw a sneak peek of Acolyte. God, the show looks even worse than on the big screen. You can really see a difference when you go from Phantom Menace to that junk. You did see a sneak peek? And Gordon, good brother, is here. Hello. How are you doing? So what do you think about that? They're going to bring him back? Let me see. He's a male, so he can't be the lead. Yeah, because basically no, I don't want to leave the studio. What they're saying is that the story Acolyte is going to be partially in perspective of the Sith. It's going to be about the Sith, basically. Now, how they do this will determine how much they break the lore pertaining to the prequel trilogy. Hi, Josh. How are you doing? So we won't know with that. So I just wanted to share this, that people are thinking because of the ship, Tenebrous is going to be the Sith Lord of the time. Now, will I be shocked? I'm almost done. Will I be shocked? No, not really, because they've been slowly bringing in EU characters and stuff. But do I want it? No, because they bastardized those characters. So there's that. So this I wanted to bring up, short cringe factor for the time being, like for this little bit. Now we're going to get into the bigger one. So let me go ahead and change out of this one here and switch articles. And I see that someone's responding to me, so I will take care of that here pretty quick. Where is it at? Here we go. And so let's see here. Okay, stayed the way it's supposed to. Thank you. So this is it. So 10 most exciting things to expect from the Acolyte Star Wars New Phantom Menace prequel. So we're not going to go through all 10. There's some bits and pieces I want to address here. And Soul Assassin knows exactly, because I kind of shared some of the quotes with him on this, and he was like, yeah, if you would have seen his expressions and stuff. So OG Star Wars, yep, it was the fight between Carrie Ann Moss' character and the enemy. The first fight looked like they mistook Star Wars for Matrix. Well, that's the thing. Leslie Headland is so interested in that type of fighting and that type of martial arts, is that's what she wants to incorporate. That's why I questioned about like martial arts and Star Wars, in the sense that from separate from what George created and used those elements to create the Jedi and what was shown. So we'll see how that goes. Mr. Dystopian says, I see Everest Productions in doing the Darth Plagueis series. More interested in that than the Acolyte. So Everest Productions, so a fan production of that. Star Wars Marvel Purist says, I think we'll go to see Plagueis transition live on screen using his own lightsaber. Oof. All right, so let's get into this article so we can start wrapping up so you guys can get back to your everyday life. I have a little adventure I'm going on today, shopping adventure, so I'm looking forward to that. All right, so I'm trying to get rid of some of these because you guys are annoying. Look at that. It's not letting me. It's just like shrinks down, but that's staying up. That did not sound right. But anyways, so basically this is about 10 things that to expect. So number 10, the Acolyte features a brand new glimpse of Jedi Order. So this is what I wanted to address here. So while there was a few prequel Jedi who could return to the Acolyte, like Yoda and Plo Koon, he doesn't live as long. He would be massively old by the time we see him in the Phantom Menace and stuff. So that's not the case. They won't be the main focus on the show. Instead, the Acolyte has introduced cast of almost entirely new characters for the show. The characters of Star Wars are one of the franchise's most beloved aspects, and adding more of them is an exciting prospect. One of the few characters who wasn't created for the Acolyte is Vernestra Raw. But her involvement in the series still exists, since she will be the first character from the High Republic novel to make the seed. So this is what I wanted. Down here is what I wanted to address here. Where is it at? Is this the one I wanted to address? I should have highlighted. I should have took notes. Which one? Okay, so yeah, so they basically said, so they can add their own people in and still have this expanded story because they won't fit into the Skywalker saga. So you don't have to worry about that. There's one I'm looking forward to about aliens and how George didn't have used aliens as secondary characters on the council. So that's the one I'm looking for. So I thought it was that one. The Acolyte will feature a unique live action lightsabers. We're not going to get into that. We already know about that. And okay, don't freeze up on me, dude. Don't do this to me. It's like, nope, we're not going to talk about that. Okay, there we go. Let's see here. And number 8, the Acolyte features a different Jedi starship. So basically, they're saying that the starship basically is very different, sleek, versatile. It's not going to have shields and stuff on it because it's a time of peace. So that's what they're saying. So I'm not going to get into that. Number 7, the Jedi Order will play a very different role in the Acolyte. So I think this is the one I was looking for. So the Skywalker saga depicts a very specific version of the Jedi Order, and the Acolyte will paint a very different picture of the organization. In the main Star Wars timeline, the Order shown in the prequel trilogy was at the very end of its life, and it had all the problems and baggage that eventually led them to their destruction. Basically, not really. They're really trying to pin the Jedi as bad and being feeble and what have you, but they weren't. While they were still in power, their strength had greatly diminished, and they had all but lost track of their core values. They didn't lose track of their core values. Their fall was failing to see that the Sith did survive and failing to evolve their order. They were just training their Jedi to fight the Sith of 1,000 years ago, right? That's not losing moral. That's not losing their core. Their core value has always been there, because if they lost their core value, then everybody's going to turn dark, right? Because their core value is about staying in the light, serving, and all of that. So they were also enmeshed in brutal, deadly war that forced Jedi to be primarily warriors and commanders. Well, Jedi were always a type of warrior. But their premise was, negotiations, finding solutions, and the last resort was fighting, war, or what have you. Now, commanders, no, they weren't really commanders whatsoever, but they were a type of warrior. So in the High Republic, however, the Jedi were in their prime. They essentially controlled the galaxy unopposed in the era of relative peace, meaning Jedi could devote themselves in areas other than combat, like scholarly, student, technology, and innovation. Let me see here. And let's see here. And then they, sorry, I was reading something else. Meaning Jedi could devote themselves to areas other than combat, like scholarly study and technological innovation. They were also much closer to the Order's founding principles and acted primarily as true peacekeepers rather than tools of the Republic. So what do you guys think about that? Do you really think that they're really changing up this lore to make the Jedi look like they were bad in a sense? The Acolyte could show a side of the Jedi Order never before seen in live action by virtue of being set during the High Republic, which is a very unique opportunity. So, if they focus more on Force meditation and all this stuff, and not necessarily training for combat, then why are they so well versed in combat? Why is she focusing on this martial art technique, right? So there's that. There is that. So let me see what you guys are saying here before we move on. And plus, she's a voice actor. Oh, I don't know what that's about. Disney words in a nutshell: Jedi man bad, Sith woman, and Buckethead good. Yeah, we're gonna get to that. That's coming up. That is coming up. Believe me. So if Anakin does have a rival in the prequels, Clone Wars, who would you think it that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard since the lack of shields at the Fortress Inquisitoris. Shields is not only to defend your ship from battle. Shields can protect from debris during, your flight somewhere, whether it's hyperspace or not, among other things. So let me see here. Let me go back to the screen. Number 7, the Acolyte will feature a mysterious Sith Lord. So here we go. I don't know if I wanted to read this one. No, I'm not going to read it. Acolyte will tell a more mature story, mature Star Wars story. Have you ever heard that? We heard that before, right? So we're going to go past that one. The Jedi will be much more diverse than in Acolyte. So here we go. I think this is the one I wanted to approach here. Let me see. I want to do something here. Where's the one I wanted to read? Like I said, why is the screen dark again? No, don't do this to me. There we go. Okay, let me scroll here. Okay. The Acolyte will tell a more mature story. Let me see here. They're trying to say it's more vicious than like Anakin slaughtering the Jedi and all this other stuff. All right, so the Jedi will be much more diverse in Acolyte. Here we go. There have been prominent Jedi who were aliens ever since Yoda made his debut in The Empire Strikes Back. But aside from him and Ahsoka Tano, so they're just going to say those two, they were never really served as main focus of any live action Star Wars story. In the prequel trilogy, for example, the alien Jedi on the High Council took a backseat to the humans and mostly acted as side characters. Part of the reason for that is that George Lucas wanted to keep the focus on human Jedi to make them seem more sympathetic, but that sentiment has been changing recently. So what do you guys think about that? So when looking at the council, the High Council, you have Yoda, you have Plo Koon, you have Deepa before she try to commit suicide. You have, and you have like Yaddle and, a lot of them there. Now, do you really think that George Lucas just wanted to keep the focus on humans because it's more sympathetic? Or do you think that his diverse included humans? And again, we're going to go to this, humans of different skin color as well, like Mace. So like I said, I had that back and forth on Twitter. If you guys follow me Twitter, you know what I'm talking about. If you're not, then I'm going to give you a short, brief story. I basically pointed out there's no race for humans, like race categories for humans in Star Wars. They are known for the origin of their planets, their planet origin, basically. And so I'm not saying there was no diversity in Star Wars whatsoever. I'm, like when it comes to humans or otherwise, I'm just saying that this is what the in-lore rules were. There was no specific race, like there was black, there was Asian, and they come from these places and that places. No, in Star Wars, humans they are associated with the planet they are from, whether they're born there or not. So like Luke would be from Tatooine, so Anakin as well. But you can also say Luke is basically, if you want to get into the nitpick, him and Leia are from the Polis Massa. But that was a secret, right? Because that was a place where they were secretly born, basically. And Leia, Alderaan. That's her home planet. So if you get what I'm saying here. So with that being said, the focus, of course, is going to always have Yoda because he is one of the main characters that comes from the OT. His story is evolving from the PT into the OT and what had happened. Mace right there was brought in mainly probably because of the actor Samuel L. Jackson. So he was taking, front seat in that specific, role, I guess you could say, as a prominent character. But George basically shared diversity throughout. Like when you look at the Jedi Temple, there's so many different Jedi from different origins, different species, what have you. So I don't know why they're specifically saying that there was like the order, like the council, like they're skirting around the fact that the council, yes, it's diverse, but George still made them a secondary character. Like that doesn't matter. They were still diverse. They still made the decision together. And we see these main characters implement them. They're still a part of the bigger picture. So let me see what you guys have to say. Here. Yep, they already made the look pathetic in the Disney films and Kenobi, so I won't be surprised with this. So no one's talking on that just yet. So I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about that, your opinion, because if it's different. The Acolyte has already debuted several alien Jedi and indicated that they'll be massively important to the show's story. There is a Marilyn, sorry. Then as well as, others, both whom have predominantly featured in the Acolyte's trailer and artwork. There's also Master who is a Wookiee. So George has a big thing about Wookiee because of their anger and stuff on being a Jedi. That's why we see them few and far in between. Number 3, the Acolyte will provide huge insight into areas of the Force. So another one of the Acolyte's main differences from the rest of the Star Wars comes from its focus. In the past, Star Wars has been almost exclusively interested in the Jedi and their allies. With dark side users, actually, we get a lot of dark side stories like, Darth Bane. The dark side users acting only as antagonists. The Acolyte, however, has promised that the Sith and the dark side will be a major part of the show. And part of the story will even be told from their perspective. This could allow for major insights into not only how the Sith work, but how they view themselves and their effect on the galaxy. We already had those stories, basically. In addition to the Sith, the Acolyte has promised to provide an entirely new perspective on the Force. A major theme of the show is, as illustrated in its trailer, is power. Who gets to wield it, and whether they should. Interesting. That will likely lead to someone challenging the Jedi's authority. So they're there to challenge the Jedi authority. There was no Sith war a long time ago that how they evolved from each other and how they split in factions and how the Sith culture influenced, and then how they became enemies, and how the light side is balanced, the dark side is not balanced, and so the Jedi try to maintain that, and the Sith try to rule and succumb, and you destroy the galaxy. So see where I'm getting at with this? Which will likely be Mother and Anasia and her Force cult. Ideas of the Force outside of the Jedi and Sith are rare to find in Star Wars. No, not really. There's like Jedi versus Sith, the source book of the Force, basically, right? That's where you get all the stories, right? So they're acting as if there was no Force societies that were expanded on. There was. We were just talking about a Force society, the Dathomirian witches, right? So, and they're going to get into that. And to find the stars only with the Night Sisters of Dathomir acting as the prominent examples. Nope, because the Night Sisters are just one faction. There's the Dathomirian witches and their clans, and then you have the Anti, you have the Fallen Nazi, you have all those Force society that were revealed. So Acolyte could completely redefine the Sith. Oh boy, here we go. So since the Acolyte was will partially tell its story from the Sith perspective, it also has a unique opportunity to completely revolutionize the narrative surrounding them. Throughout the Skywalker saga, the Sith have simply been an organization that embodies evil. Well, that's exactly what they are, the dark side, the imbalance, the perfect villains. Acolyte, however, is taking a different approach to them. The showrunner Leslie Helen says this: I am always attracted to amoral or immoral characters and finding the humanity within the villains, which means the Sith would become much more sympathetic. What do you think? If a Sith is sympathetic, that takes away the nature of the Sith, right? That takes away all their machinations, the power, the greediness, the control. When you see a Sith being quote unquote sympathetic, it's basically being sarcastic, right? They're being sympathetic in a sense of sarcasm upon killing someone, right? We always see that. They act as if they're sympathetic. Like Vader, he acts sympathetic, but it's his nature as part as his being sarcastic when he force chokes on all this, and we see that. But making the Sith be relatable in a sense and make them look good destroys the story of the good versus evil in Star Wars. It does. It takes away from how Vader was such a the most predominant villain in movie history. The Sith are as old as Star Wars, yet they haven't been explored in live action Star Wars nearly enough. The Acolyte could fix that mistake. It was never a mistake. There was no mistake made there by George Lucas. By showing a new side of the Sith, and then notice how they say new, the Acolyte could be able to use them in a much more nuanced and complex way. It would also work perfectly with the show's goal of critiquing power, as a more sympathetic Sith would be better able to contrast Jedi as an alternative to them. No, their alternative to them is evil. So they're basically making the Jedi evil or bad and the Sith good, so that they can carry on this story of how they want to show how the Jedi felt. The Acolyte can show the beginning of the end of the Jedi Order. So this is the last one. The High Republic. Let me see if I want to read this one here. So something had to cause the Jedi Order to fall from grace. The Acolyte could finally explain exactly what that was. The prequel already shared that. There are countless possibilities for such a story, from the Sith intervention to the old-fashioned hubris. And any one of them would be a fascinating path for the Acolyte to explore. This is the 100 years before the Phantom Menace. Now, if this is, mind you, like 2030, then that would make sense, in a sense. Not the direction they're necessarily going, but showing where they started falling. And then Acolyte has been held as a prequel to the Phantom Menace, and it could explain how the Jedi Order became so weak. If it does, the Acolyte would be a direct precursor to the Star Wars prequel trilogy and gives some much wanted context of the Jedi Order's fall. Again, the Jedi, like the prequel, already shared, and the context was pretty clear why they fell. So again, this is revisionist history here. Subversion, deconstruction, destruction. Let's see here. Anakin was kind of a anti-hero in the prequel, but good and evil were all well established. Sidious is the one who said the Sith and Jedi were the same. Let's see here. The Sith are just misunderstood and marginalized by the oppressor Jedi. Let's see, the most postmodernist deconstruction nonsense. They're correct. Yes. I knew I forgot something. Oh yeah, you guys are chatting here. Okay, let me see. Ryder is proposing a glorified emphasized with evil. Yep. Now, the one who did it significantly well was James Luceno with the Darth Plagueis novel. And that had a time frame that went from 100 and something years all the way up into the Phantom Menace. So that gave us the Sith perspective. That gave us more nuance, I guess you could say, on how they stayed hidden, how they gained their power, and how they learned more about the Jedi to use what they learned about the Jedi against them. It wasn't that the Jedi were bad or that they lost their morality, they lost their virtues or anything like that. They just learned more about the Jedi so they can use what they learned about the Jedi against them. And so the Jedi knew that the Jedi would respond how they did to help bring peace. So again, they went in to do negotiations, which did not. To stop this infighting with the Trade Federation and stuff, that was not successful. And, of course, battles resulted from that and all this other stuff, and all the stuff heated in the Senate. And then it escalated to where, this discovery of the clones and the use of the clones and the Clone War starting. Because everything else failed. All the procedures that the Jedi took failed to resolve in some sort of negotiations and peace and stuff like that, right? And the reason why it all happened the way it did was because the Sith, learning more about the Jedi, learning how they would respond and using that against them. I don't think people realize that. If you go down and you sit down and dissect all of this, research, not theorize, because that is going into what if territory. But if you go down with them, sit down with all the facts and stuff, and how the Sith researched and kept track of the Jedi, and the Jedi thought the Sith were extinct, so they really didn't keep track of them. And then the Sith come back and uses their own values and virtues, and how they present, how they try to, bring about peace when conflict arises. And knowing that the last resort is war or battle or whatever, they use those steps against them. And I think that was brilliant. I don't think that Leslie or Disney Lucasfilm realizes that. And so they think, oh, well, we got to make the Jedi look like they just completely lost their way, and they started turning corrupt and bad. No, they weren't turning corrupt or bad. They were working with the Senate because it was a form of helping to maintain peace. So I don't think people realize that as well. Did they step away from the Force? Not necessarily, but their attention was a little bit scattered, I guess you could say. Because and the Sith knew that, and they used that against them. So a lot of things to think about, put together, puzzle together, which myself, a fan, can do that. Why can't these guys? But they want to rewrite the history of how the Jedi were and what they want them to be. Let me see what you guys have to say. It's funny that the scene where Palpatine acts like he is Padme's and Yoda's friend. Yeah. So like he really like this guy was a huge actor. Like he hid himself in the Force in a sense of being dark side, right? And he played them with friendship, with being like unity, like being unified in a common cause, right? That he friggin' played everybody. He not only played the Jedi, he played the galaxy, he played the Republic, he played both sides. He was the puppeteer. He was a puppeteer for the Separatists, the Trade Federation, basically, and he was a puppeteer for the Republic. He was playing both sides. He had people staged on both sides. He played them well. And that was the revenge of the Sith. So I bet none of these new writers had a good relationship with their father. I don't know. The Space Wizard laser sword nag is to distract people from seeing that the new writers are encouraging bad behavior in real life, not just exploring it in a story as a morality tale. I could see that. I'm new here, but we chat before on Twitter. Hey there, Josh. Well, I'm glad you are tuning in. Thank you. Howdy, Laura in chat. Yeah, we're getting ready to close out now. So those who are tuning in, please catch the replay. So from what I shared with you guys, what do you think? What do you think? So we have a couple more minutes here, and then we're going to close out. Matthew says in Force Unleashed, he even came up with the rebellion. Yeah, he was trying to control everything in a sense. He was this huge control freak, and in a sense that really backfired on him, right? That really backfired because he didn't know about Leia, and he didn't know about Luke. And they were basically, each one of Anakin and Padme's kids were positioned on each side, on the Republic or on the political side, I guess you can say, and on the Force side, the Jedi side. So that was even though George didn't intend for this, because he had that last decision on making Leia Luke's sister, that was brilliant in its own self. So again, sit down, look at all the pieces for the PT, and look at, if you're going to go into the Sith perspective, look at all the pieces that they used against the Jedi and the Republic, and how they used it against him, and how he puppeteered, and how even Plagueis helped set that up. And Palpatine's like, I'm taking control of this shit, and he kills his master, right? Because he's like, I'm not going to be your puppet. You're not going to be telling me what to do behind the scenes. So a lot of this, like, there's a lot of tactical brilliance that happened with the Sith against the Jedi and the Republic to take control of the galaxy. Revenge of the Sith. So there you guys go. So thank you guys again for watching. I'm going to go ahead and take this off the screen. And again, Cringe Factor, or not Cringe Factor, CAF Chat next week, same time. I am overdue on giving some lore videos and stuff. I apologize. Like I said, there's so much on my plate right now. So if I can only keep the live streams going, in the meantime, we will meet here every week. I do want to do a Cantina chat. It just hasn't happened yet. So stay tuned for that. I will schedule that. So hopefully you'll come and join me. Cantina chat happens later on in the day. That's why I call it not Cantina chat, but Cantina night. Sorry. And so catch me there. So with that being said, book of the week, basically the Dark Forces trilogy. I highly recommend it. You can find the audio versions on YouTube, and try to find it, add it to your collection. Thriftbooks.com is a good resource there. Hopefully you can add that to your collection. And of course, the game is a bonus because that's something fun and enjoyable to play within just a single plot of the story. So enjoy that as well. So thank you guys again, and I will talk to you later. And have a good day. May the force be with you.
Another happy landing.